just thought, how am I going to tell Gloria about this one? I had promised her, that got just enough time here to give you make a break. But she got back, and I told her about this place, and she just looked at me, and I said, "Will you come and see it?" And she said, "Okay." And I started to pitch her on the house, and she just said, "No, just be quiet." And she went and walked through the entire house, and the only thing she said was, "How old is this place?" And I said, "It's 110 years old." And then I said, "Well, what do you think?" And she just looked at me, Gary, and she said, "We are not going to let this beautiful lady die."
Okay, that's interesting. We're going to have a touch back on this here. I'm going to put you on hold. We're going to be back here in 2.5 minutes. Enough time for you to go get a cup of Jabba, Wayne. We're talking with Wayne Mc Farland, Tales from the Day. We'll be talking about some of those, during the next half an hour. So stay tuned. Wayne, I'm not hanging up on you, so just remember that, my friend.
All right, I got it.
Okay.
Perde tempo escolhendo uma roupa, porque no fim eu sei que vou tirar. Fala tchau pro seu batom na boca e fala oi pra quem te faz pirar. Se você já tá com a mesma sensação, pode vir, gente, que eu dou um bugão. Tá descontrolada toda essa tara e não para porque a coisa ficou mara. Vou te ganhar no cansaço, no cansaço, no cansaço. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço. Colarinha dos amassos, amassos, amassos. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço. Eu sei que vou tirar. Fala tchau pro seu batom na boca e fala oi pra quem te faz pirar. Se você já tá com a mesma sensação, pode vir, que eu tô um bugão. Tá descontrolada toda essa tara e não para porque a coisa ficou mara. Vou te ganhar no cansaço, no cansaço, no cansaço. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço. Rolar em altos amassos, amassos, amassos. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço. Vou te ganhar no cansaço, no cansaço, no cansaço. Vamos fazer um regaço, um regaço, um regaço. Rolar em altos amassos, amassos, amassos.
Please check out the Night Dreams Talk Radio website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Also, if you want to keep our show free of advertising, just hit the donate button. Give $1 or $2. Remember, all prior shows are always free to listen to. We at Night Dreams Talk Radio thank you for your support.
If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com, and thank you.
You are listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, from our compound to you worldwide, with your host, Gary Anderson.
Well, that is me. Tonight we're talking to Wayne Mc Farland. It's a great show. I tell you, it kind of a little bit is nice not to be talking about UFOs or witchcraft or zombies tonight. We're just talking and having fun. And he wrote a great book, and he's on his number 2, Tales from the Day. All I can say is also, if you're a singer or a member of a band and you want your song to be introduced out on the radio, like the song you just heard is from a gentleman in Brazil. I'm going to have him listed up here in the next day or two on my website where you can actually purchase that song. Unfortunately, I don't even know that song is even singing about, but I do like the rhythm of the song. Anyway, Wayne, we're back.
All right. Yeah, glad to be here.
Well, so am I.
Thanks for the plug of my book, Tales from the Day. Anybody who wants to pick it up with all the weird stories, one of which we'll finish here, hopefully, just go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble and pick up a copy, and you will live long and prosper.
Maybe. I'm sorry. I got to ask you a question. Did you guys buy that? Did you buy that Victorian house?
We did. And we had to move it because people who owned it had sold the property, and the buyer of the property was going to burn it down, tear it apart for architectural salvage and then burn it down. That's why my wife felt so strongly about it. But then we had to move it. So the problem was, once we bought it and the house was ours, then the city leader showed up, and they passed a new regulation that said when you move a place, you had to fill the hole. It had a basement. You had to fill the hole with dirt, and there couldn't be any furniture or anything in it. You had to just push the walls in and then cover it all with dirt so it matched the level of the ground, which made some sense, actually. There was only one problem, and that's these people who'd had the house had a huge antique bar and back bar in the basement. And so, they wouldn't let us fill in the basement with the bar and the back bar in there. And I don't know where they got that thing, but it must have been from quite a saloon. And so I told Gloria, I said, look, this is not a problem. It's an opportunity. We'll just donate the bar and the back bar, and then we'll write it off. We'll make money out of it. It's great. And Gloria looks at me and said, okay, how'd they get that bar in there in the first place? And I didn't have any idea, but then the inspector that was there said they originally used mules, the crane and mules,
oh, wow.
Like in, the hay burners. So I called everybody to donate that bar, and all the VFW clubs, and nobody had room for it. So I'm thinking, oh boy, what are we going to do now? So I talked to one of the people in town that have been there forever, and he gave me the name of a captain in the Salvation Army, which is a big deal there. They helped a lot of people. And I said, the Salvation Army, they were founded on teetotaling, among other things. I mean, you're not supposed to be drinking, and they're going to take a bar? And the guy said, trust me. So I called this guy at the Salvation Army, and he said, no problem, we'll take it. I said, you will? He said, yeah. And I said, look, it's in the basement. This thing weighs a ton. It's got to be taken out of there. You're going to have to do that. He said, not a problem. So the day comes to move the bar, right? And the huge Salvation Army truck shows up with his captain in there in full uniform, Salvation Army uniform. And behind him, Gary, I swear, comes 2 buses with county jail on the side. And they pull up and stop, and there must have been, 50 guys or something that they'd somehow gotten them from the county jail, and they came down there to help the Salvation Army load this bar. And I'm standing there, Gloria's looking at me, and I go, well, South Dakota, road workers know all the brothels in South Dakota. Why shouldn't the county jail inmates come and move a bar for the Salvation Army? So they went down there, these guys, and lifted that thing out in moments. And then later, the police showed up wondering what 50 guys were doing milling around this open hole in the ground. But Salvation Army was gone. It took them 2 minutes, loaded this thing up in the truck. And so I went up to Captain, and I said, you mind if I ask you a question? And the Salvation Army guy says, what? I said, I really hope you can use this, but wasn't the Salvation Army founded on not drinking?
I'm sorry.
And he stared at me for a moment, and then he looked up at the sky. It was starting to snow, and he looked back at me, and he said, the Lord works in strange and mysterious ways. And then he got back in the truck, and off they went, and I never saw him again.
Oh, wow.
County jail guys left. That was it. And then we moved the house.
I got to ask you a question. When you buy a house like that and you transport it and then you put it down on the property, how much damage is done, with the walls and, the structure after it gets transported? Is there a lot of problems after that?
It's truly amazing, Gary, what these folks do. There was not one bit of damage, nothing. And they had added a wing on this thing with a lap pool. I mentioned there was a gym in there, and they had just all kinds of stuff. There was an old pool table left in it. They moved this whole, I don't know how many tons it was. And the last half a mile they moved it was across a bean field, to get to our lot. And they had computer-controlled wheels underneath it. And the house was perfectly smooth, but you could see the wheels underneath it bouncing up and down to keep it level. And we had to build a new foundation, and they set it down on that foundation so perfectly that we had to cut one of the sides of the house off, and it had to be put back together, and it was so perfect you could put the nails in the old holes if you wanted to. Unbelievable.
Oh,
I've never
wow.
seen anything like that in my life. It was just truly amazing. And we lived there for years, and it was just truly wonderful. It was marvelous.
Was it haunted?
I'm sorry?
Was it haunted?
No, there were rumors to that effect, actually. But no, we never heard any things going bump in the night. The previous owners and the builder of the home who died in it, there were rumors going around, people who swore that they would hear and see things, the old owner pacing around the parlor and stuff. And we never bumped into that, maybe because we moved it. I don't know.
Maybe it was left on the property where it was originally.
And where was it originally?
Well, I mean, maybe the haunting was not in the house, but because of the property.
It could very well be. The property was part of a huge estate owned by a prominent banker in South Dakota, as it turned out. And it could have very well been that might have broken the chain. But I will say that I had some people who I really respect and believe a lot. I mean, they weren't prone to telling tales. Tell me that they had personally experienced some pretty weird stuff in the house. So, I don't know what to tell you, but if anything broke the chain, it was probably moving the place.
Interesting. I think a person could save, that's one thing in the Midwest. People don't realize, at least it was back 20 years ago. I had a friend that retired, he sold his house in Tacoma. And back then, I think he sold it for like $200 and some thousand. He bought a real nice bunch of acreage with a nice big huge pond stocked with fish, nice house, nice, barn, a nice place to put his RV parked in. And it was like $120,000, $130,000. It was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really amazing what you run across sometime. And, it's like you and I have talked about, a lot of experiences that you end up treasuring, even though they're kind of weird, are things you just have to be open to. It's sort of like, looking at that beautiful old house, when Gloria and I had made a blood vow to each other, we'd never get involved with some kind of weird real estate project again. But looking at it and then hearing that they were going to destroy it, it's just in an instant we both said we're not going to let that happen. We're just not going to. And as it turned out to be a really good investment too. When we decided we sold the company, and then we didn't have any reason to be in South Dakota anymore, and it was a huge place. We couldn't keep it just for